Well, you made it. I made it. We all made it back to college football. Game week is officially here, and it's time to start looking at Iowa's Week 1 contest against Illinois State. My official preview for that game coming out tomorrow. If you missed my season preview show, it was about a 2.5-hour marathon with former Iowa offensive coordinator Don Patterson. Check out that 2-part show that was released on the channel over the weekend. Also, before we get to the news today, which involves the Week 1 depth chart release, if you are not following the channel over on social media, do so, specifically Instagram. Want to plug Instagram tonight? Check it out if you're not following, because look at this number. We need to get this number up. The goal is to get up over 1,000 here in the coming months. This should not be that difficult. We've got over 9,000 subscribers now on the YouTube channel. Folks, if you've got an Instagram page, please take the time. I'll link this in the description. It will be the top line in the description. Instagram. Follow the page on Instagram. You'll get some short form content and alerts to live shows, including an alert to each post-game show before it goes live this season. Again, at From the Hawkeye on Instagram. From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Instagram. So Iowa releases its Week 1 depth chart. The last time we got a 2-deep or anymore, it's like a 3 or a 4-deep in some cases. The last time we got one was back before the start of fall camp around Big Ten Media Days. And so 3 weeks of camp, and now in the middle of game prep, Week 1 game prep, we get a new depth chart. And as we take a look at the defensive side first, a couple things to keep in mind. There have been some injuries, and there are question marks heading into game one. One being the health of TJ Hall. He is listed as your top corner ahead of John Nestor. Now, I know John was the trendy name preseason. I had told people, hey, I was hearing TJ Hall was having an excellent camp. And so I'm not shocked at all that TJ Hall is listed as the number one guy opposite Jamari Harris. Now, the only question mark here is, will TJ Hall be 100% and ready to go on game day? He's been limited due to an ankle injury that he sustained during the Kids Day open practice. That is one of the main takeaways on the defensive side of things. If you look at defensive line, no changes at the top at left end. Deontay Craig, Max Llewellyn, a couple of proven edge rushers. Kenneth Merriweather was listed as the third guy pre-camp. He is no longer listed here. At left tackle, you've got Aaron Graves. Will Hubert is now in second place. It sounds like Jeff Bowie, unfortunately, sustained another injury. Boy, that guy has been plagued by the injury bug since he got to Iowa. Luke Gaffney now listed as a left tackle. But again, wouldn't read too much into this. He was listed on the depth chart at right tackle pre-camp. Jeremiah Pittman still listed as the backup to Y.A. Black at right tackle. At right end, you've got Ethan Herkett, Brian Allen. No surprise there. Caden Crawford was listed pre-camp. He is not listed on this official Week 1 depth chart. No changes at cash. Sebastian Castro is healthy. John Nestor, very inexperienced, but he's a guy obviously the coaching staff likes. They like him at corner. They like him at cash. He is going to be backing up Sebastian Castro. Kyler Fisher, Jackson Rexroth, if there's need for a Leo. And then at middle linebacker, you've got Jay Higgins, Jaden Harrell. No surprises there. At the Willie spot, you've got Nick Jackson, Carson Shire, who's had a good camp. And hopefully he can stay away from the injury bug because his upside is high. Xavier Wampa, backed up by Cohen Entringer, who has been working back from an injury. The coaching staff likes where he's at physically, and they like his upside. Quinn Schulte, Zach Lutmer. No changes at safety either. Very uneventful on the back end of this defense, with the exception being the TJ Hall, Deshaun Lee, John Nestor battle. Deshaun Lee is listed as your backup to Jamari Harris. But what will be interesting to see is if a guy like Jamari Harris goes down, is Deshaun Lee the first guy in? Would it be John Nestor, assuming TJ Hall is healthy and starting at the other spot? That is a question mark. Also, Xavier Wampa had been dealing with a hamstring injury. It appears that he's back healthy. He is listed as your starting strong safety. Look at specialists. Drew Stevens, Reese Dakin, Luke Elkin. I guess the only thing that I would say is maybe somewhat of a surprise. Iowa had not listed a holder on the pre-camp depth chart. They've got Reese Dakin listed as your holder. I was given pretty strong indicators that it would be Ty Nissen. However, you see the or option there, so maybe it will be Nissen. We only see the or option at one other spot. and it's on the offensive side, on the offensive line on this week 1 depth chart. Now, the more interesting side of things on offense, Jarrett Bowie still listed as a starter. Dayton Howard had been dealing with an injury. Remember, he was listed pre-fall camp behind Bowie. Reese Vanderzee had a really good fall camp. Again, Howard's been down. Vanderzee, the true freshman, listed as Jarrett Bowie's backup, but I do think that Bowie is likely to be either 3 or 4 week 1. I don't think he's in the top 2. I think those spots are pretty much nailed down between Jacob Gill and Caden Weegan, who are the starters at the other 2 listed wide receiver spots. Seth Anderson, is he healthy? I have a feeling this depth chart isn't really taking into account availability for Saturday, and maybe that's because it's week 1. It would be excellent news if all these guys were healthy. Xavier Wampa was back fully healthy. Seth Anderson was back full speed, and TJ Hall was fully healthy, but I don't know that to be the case. Let's hope that's the case. But Iowa should be able to audition a number of guys at wideout, including Terrell Washington, and maybe even a guy like Dayton Howard if he's healthy, although not listed on this depth chart. You take a look at tight end, no surprises there. Luke Lachey, Addison Estringa appear to have stayed healthy throughout fall camp. At fullback, you got Hayden Large, Eli Miller. I'll continue to double down on my take that I believe Eli Miller will probably be a guy who takes more snaps at fullback this year than Hayden Large. I think Large will see some time at tight end, especially in heavy packages along the goal line. Cade McNamara is your starter, as confirmed by Kirk Ferentz last week. Brendan Sullivan is the second guy off the bench, and they did bother to list Marco Lainez. Perhaps noteworthy, as I mentioned earlier, there were some other spots, like at left end and right end, where Iowa had listed 3 guys prior to fall camp. They took that third guy off here for week 1. They did not do that at quarterback. I think there's a little bit more confidence. Well, there's certainly more confidence in the depth at quarterback. And I do believe that Iowa will play more than one guy Saturday. I've continued to say that. I'll continue to say that until Saturday. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I think in some way, shape, or form, we'll see more than one quarterback. I hope we see 3 quarterbacks in some shape or form on Saturday. Offensive lines had a little bit of a shakeup. You've still got Bo Stevens as your starting left guard, Mason Richmond as your starting left tackle. Jack Dotzler is backing up Richmond at tackle. Logan Jones, this is a typo. Logan Jones listed as your backup left guard. Reportedly a typo. It should have been Leighton Jones, the Indiana native. Michael Myslinski listed as the backup at left guard. Cade Piper now is your backup center. Tyler Ellsbury, who was listed pre-fall camp as your backup center, is now the backup guard to Connor Colby. Nick DeYoung, who was your backup right guard pre-fall camp, is now your backup right tackle behind Jennings Dunker. And Nick DeYoung has worked at a lot of different positions. This is year number 6 for the Pella native. And finally, the position that has generated the most buzz on this Monday, and rightfully so, Kamari Moulton, the second-year player out of Fort Lauderdale, is listed as your starter. No or designation on this depth chart. He is ahead of LaShawn Williams and Caleb Johnson, along with Jazz Patterson. Very surprising, at least in the eyes of some, although we kept hearing, and I kept reporting this on this show throughout the last couple of weeks, that Kamari Moulton continued to impress. Now, LaShawn has been dealing with the injury bug. That's another reason why I wonder if this depth chart really takes into account some of these injuries. But I would think that if Kamari Moulton was your designated starter week 1 because of an injury to LaShawn wouldn't be listed at all. But we'll just have to wait and see. Kirk has made it very clear, and Liddell has said the same thing. They're going to play 3 or 4 guys at a minimum. They like their top 4. I like their top 4. They're all different backs, but I think Kamari Moulton might be emerging. I mean, 5'9", second-year player, 5'9". He gained, 15 pounds in the offseason? But I didn't expect him coming in as a freshman last year to play. Didn't do a lot last year, but he has just ascended the depth chart. And I won't for a minute believe that this is just purely the result of a LaShawn Williams injury. Even if Williams is still dinged up, I guarantee you there is a reason why Kamari Moulton is listed at the top, ahead of Caleb Johnson, ahead of Jazz Patterson and Williams. It's not just due to an injury to LaShawn. So could be a fun season to watch a young guy continue to develop, for him to leapfrog all those guys who are older, who have played a lot more football. That is eye-opening. We'll see what he looks like on Saturday, but you're going to see a number of guys running at tailback. So that's the week 1 depth chart. No huge surprises other than Kamari being listed as your number 1 guy. It's going to be imperative that some of these guys who are dealing with soft tissue stuff are healthy through the weekend. And, you get through week one, you may have to hold somebody out, even though you'd like to get everybody up to full speed for week one. Reality is you should be able to take care of business against the Redbirds. And if you need to rest a guy like Xavier Wampa or even a guy like TJ Hall, I understand TJ's not had a ton of reps with the starting unit in an actual game, but he's a third-year guy and he plays for a really strong group on defense. Wide receiver, a little bit different. I'd be playing everybody I can. Obviously, if you're risking re-injury, I understand that. But as I stated for months now, Caleb Brown out with the OWI suspension, opportunity knocking for at least 6 or 7 guys to make a statement on Saturday. There have been flashes during fall camp from guys like Gill, guys like Van Der Zee, and even guys like Dayton Howard prior to going down with an injury. We'll find out from Kirk. He'll be meeting with the media on Tuesday, and I'm guessing there will be questions regarding injuries as there is each and every week. A live show with myself and Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. We normally go live on Tuesdays at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. This week, week one, we're pushing it back an hour, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully, we'll be able to hit more people as we start the season. Another fresh year of Iowa Hawkeyes live. Iowa and Illinois State. Stay locked in right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm and our sister channel, Iowa Football, at the voice of college football. We'll talk to you soon.